It's HighTechDad, and today I'm actually going to perform surgery on an old 20-inch G5 iMac. This is actually my daughter's iMac, and the hard drive has been having tons of issues. Fan's been running really loud. Doing a smart check on it is showing that the drive is failing. So we're basically going to pop this thing open and replace a hard drive. Now, I've mentioned these guys before, iFixit. I've used their guides many times, and they were kind enough to donate a hard drive that I'm going to be using for this repair. And I'm actually wearing my "You Fix It Yourself" t-shirt to give myself some good karma. They also were nice to supply a pretty sweet little screwdriver set that has all the different types of connectors that you might need. So anyway, I'm going to dive into it and basically film this as I go, and hopefully it'll be pretty successful. I've actually put in hard drives in MacBook Pros, and I even a long time ago put a super drive into an old iMac DV Special Edition. So hopefully this will be a little bit easier than those ones. So the first thing you want to do is probably print out the directions from iFixit, read through them a couple of times, look at the pictures. It's pretty helpful. You can see that I've actually, bad shadow here, I've actually written some numbers in on the directions. You can see that, and those are actually, they correspond to when screws are removed, and then I use this really high-tech device here to save my screws. I've used this over and over again. What I've done is I've actually labeled with numbers that correspond to the directions. I just drop the screws in there, and it's a great way to do this without losing any screws. Also, be sure that you have all the tools that you need. So I obviously have a few different types of screwdriver sets here and some extra pliers, and I put everything on a soft towel and I'm working on it. You might want to ground yourself in terms of static electricity, but I've done this a few times, so it's not too bad. First step here is removing these little screws in the corner here, and you can see that's what they say in the iFixit guide. Also note that I did make a full backup of the dying hard drive using Super Duper, which is a great cloning program. You can actually boot off of a FireWire drive of any backups that you make using that. I really recommend that. So I've done that already, and that's what I'll be installing onto this new hard drive. So in that step, you actually don't need to remove those screws. They just loosen the back cover. So I've taken off the back cover, pivots right back according to the directions, and it shows the inside of the iMac. Okay, now to remove the hard drive encasement, we're gonna take out these screws right here and the one right here. And I also like to clean out things usually with some compressed air as I go. It always helps to clean up your device. It sucks in a lot of dust usually. Okay, at this point it looked like the guide was a little off from what I encountered, so it said I would have to use a Torx screwdriver to take out this particular screw. Where is it? The one that was down in here. Looks like this. It turns out that it was just a Phillips head. Right, so the guide says that this next step is optional, but you can see there's a little thermal sensor right here. You can pop that off, and then you'll be able to remove the hard drive a little bit easier. Otherwise, you might run the risk of putting strain on that cable just lifting up the drive bay. I'm going to try and pop it off. Okay, this little thing in here is proving to be a little bit more difficult. So since the iFixit guide said it was optional, I'm going to see if I can simply do the rest of the stuff without disconnecting the thermal sensor cable because I don't want to break it. So we're at a slightly different perspective now. I was over here, now I've flipped over here. So what I'm doing right now is removing the serial ATA, the SATA power connector, and the data connector. So I've already popped off one here. They recommend using some kind of a tool like this that has a nice flat edge, if you can see that. I'm not sure. Definitely pick up one of these things. It's called a spudger. They're pretty inexpensive. So now you can see the drive is pretty much out, but remember we did not remove that thermal sensor there. So what we have to do now is remove the screws that are holding the drive in. It should be pretty straightforward. Same thing on that side. Once we're done with that, take out the old drive, put in the new one, and do everything in reverse to get it all back together. So I'll be back when it's all back in. Okay, actually I lied. I'm back. Here's the old drive taken out. It's an old, let's see, Mac Store 250 gigabyte drive. So the drive's out, and I saved the side bracket to mount in later on. Here's the new drive. It's a Western Digital. It's a 1 terabyte hard drive, so should be a pretty nice upgrade for here. So we're going to just drop it back in and away we go. Kind of one of the funny things about the iFixit guides is once you get the whole thing taken apart, they simply say, okay, now what you do is do everything in reverse to put it back. So that's what we're going to do. Alright, so the new hard drive is back in. If there is a way for you to remove the little thermal sensor, I definitely recommend it, but just be really careful. It was kind of difficult getting in the screw up in there, but I was able to get it. So now I'm just going to put together the rest of the drive and close this thing up. Alright, so we're at the final step here. The drive's already in, and we're just putting the back on. If you notice in here, there are some little tabs, so you need to be sure that you slide it in and get those tabs in there. It's kind of hard to do it one-handed. And then you can drop it right down and it should connect in really easily. So after that, I'm going to fire it up and connect my external hard drive and try to copy everything over to the new drive. So there it is. Couldn't have done it without the iFixit guide. Alright, so the case is on. I just need to tighten down the screws here, and thanks to the iFixit guide we have done this in pretty much half an hour, and that's including time to stop and record and take pictures and that sort of thing. So this has been HighTechDad putting in a new hard drive into an older G5 iMac. You can read more about it on my blog at www.hightechdad.com. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me on Twitter, and you can follow me at HighTechDad.